So there's two aspects that are in fact one, really, but we can point to them in two different ways, from two angles. The absolute, our true nature, and the relative, this person. And for the mind, it seems as if it's two different things. It seems as if it's actually two contrasting things. But in reality, it's not separate, it's not different. It's just that it's a different emphasis when we point to it. We are always the absolute, and yet we can't deny our humanity, because it's here, it's felt, it's lived. The absolute is always lived in the relative, because you can't live the absolute, because the very fact that you're living it is the relative, the human play. It can be acknowledged that I am that seeing of it all, the awareness that knows everything that's happening. But even the acknowledgement of it happens for the human, for the person, in that play of experience, in the relative play. The acknowledgement is an experience, in fact. An experience that happens in time for this person, this human. It's an experience that comes and then it goes. Maybe, of course, changes some aspects of this human life, changes a perspective of this human life. But the experience itself passes. So what do we do with the absolute knowing? Because as soon as we try to grasp it and say, right, I know it, I am this, it's mental. It's holding on to a belief, perhaps an experience, a genuine experience of recognition of that, but as soon as thought comes in saying, I know this, I've got this, that's thought, it's not it. And yet, also we can forgive thought for doing that because it can't do anything else. That's the best it can do. But still it's limited, so we have to be clear that this is just thought. Nothing wrong with what thought does, but it is just thought. So the absolute is recognized and then hands off. You have to just leave it. There's nothing to do with it. You can't hold on to it or try to live it in your daily life. Because this is a mental game. This is a mental trying to identify with the absolute. And many people get a bit stuck with this. And what tends to happen for many people is a kind of a disassociation when there's an identifying with that awareness. Now it's great, it's true, you are that awareness. But by taking it on as a mental concept and really believing thought, when thought says, I am this. Now it may be true that you are this, but when thought says it, it's not true. So when it's a mental belief, it's just a mental belief like any other mental belief. So no matter how true the mental belief is, it's still a mental belief. And This is really a sneaky one. So we acknowledge, I am that knowing of it all. But any trying to stay there, or be that, or experience that continuously, is a thought wanting to find a resting place for me, a landing place for me, an identity, a new spiritual awareness identity for me. So it's recognized, and the very fact that it's recognized does its own work. There's nothing for me to do about it. The work for me has happened before that recognition. Because that's what happens for most spiritual seekers. They are trying to get it, they're working really hard on themselves. But once you recognize that there is in fact no separate me, that the me that you have taken yourself to be is just thought, and you recognize that, actually I am that awareness of it all. Any more trying to get there or be that continuously is more of the same. In fact, it's somehow denying what you've recognized. You've recognized that there is only that awareness, that I am that awareness always. And then when thought comes in, saying, I need to do that, I need to be that, it's overlooking the fact that you've recognized that there's nothing to do, in fact. You're always that. So it's an old habit of thought to keep trying to do it, to become it. So just keep seeing, this is just thought, it's just thought. And stay with what you've recognized. And that's staying with what you've recognized. That's not a job for thought to do. In fact, you can't try to stay with it, because any trying to stay with it will be thought. So when I say stay with that, in fact what I'm saying is keep seeing the joke of thought. I'm not this, and I'm not that, and I'm not this, and I'm not that. What's left is the awareness of it all, which you've already recognized. So that's where you stay. You stay in that because everything else is not that. So it's not an effort to stay with it. It's not a trying to hold on to an experience. It's seeing that I'm not anything that thought imagines that I am. And it leaves you with nowhere to land in thought. It leaves you with no particular identity to be in the world as this person. It leaves you quite lost, especially if you've been on the spiritual path for a long time, aiming to arrive there, hoping that when you arrive, you will have an identity that you can say, this is who I am. I am awareness. And then you start to see, well, actually, even that is a thought. It's true, but it's a thought when thought takes it on. Thought hijacks even the most beautiful spiritual concepts, turns it all into concepts. And that it can do that with everything I'm saying now, of course. Nothing is sacred for thought. So keep getting the jokes. This too is thought. This too is thought. And it is basically pulling the rug out from under your feet again and again and again. Life does this for us anyway. Right? As soon as you think, okay, my situation is permanent, it's all comfortable, easy, life comes along and pulls the rug out from under your feet anyway. Something changes, you lose what you thought you had, relationship ends, you lose a job or whatever. And again, you're free-falling in not knowing, not understanding, not being the person that you thought you were. Your experience is constantly changing. So even if you have an experience of recognizing that I am awareness, and that beautiful experience happens where you have not much thought and there's perhaps some distance from your personal experience, this too changes. So as soon as thought thinks, now I've got it, I've arrived, it changes naturally because every experience changes. So notice how thought can come in saying, I've lost it now. I need to get back to that experience. But every experience changes. Thought is trying to grasp hold of some resting place for me. That's what it's trying to do. It's trying to help. Actually, it's very sweet. It's trying to be as helpful as it possibly can. Because thought longs to rest in the home that you are. It longs to not need to look for myself. It's longing to just come to some rest. But the way thought is trying to find that rest is in more thought, or in a temporary experience, or a thought about that temporary experience. And there's never any rest there. It's just chasing another experience, another identity, hoping that maybe one day I'll get it. The real rest is in seeing that there is nothing to be done. It's already here. Thought can never get it, because it's already here. And that's frustrating for thought, because it's trying to get it and grasp it. So the kind of rest that actually is what thought is trying to get but cannot, can only be acknowledged when there's a losing hope in thought. When I can never get it, when I try and I try and I try and I fail, and I fail and I fail and I fail, and there's a loss of hope, and then here I am. With no particular identity, with no special experience for me. And yet this is enough, simply because it is. Not according to any belief or idea. This experience, whatever it is, however it is for you, however this ordinary experience now is known in the awareness that you are. It's included in that awareness that you are. Nothing is excluded, it's all included. Even thought. So there's no need to work hard to exclude thought. That's more thought anyway. It's just that thought isn't the one with the answers. Thought can't find the rest. But thought is welcome to keep trying and failing. But when thought loses hope more and more, there is a falling back into the rest that is already here, has always been here. So it's not that thought needs to stop. It's just that thought has been misused, you could even say. That thought has been used to try to find myself, to reach out, to get it somewhere out there. And that reaching out, reaching forward, reaching into the future in time, that effort that's been made. There's a longing to stop that effort. But the way to stop that effort is not by making more effort. It's by seeing that there's no effort needed. That I, as thought, can't do it. It's futile. It's absolutely and utterly impossible for thought to make all this effort to arrive at no effort. So thought wants to know, well, how to do this, how to become this, how to get there. But all of that is that reaching out, effort. This is the joke, really. It's here, always here. The rest, the home that you long to find, to fall back into. It's always patiently waiting, waiting to be acknowledged again. And the acknowledgement isn't anything new, it's always here. It's just when thought is looking out there, it's overlooked. When you lose hope that thought can ever get it, well, it's obvious. But thought can't grasp that. It doesn't need to. The thought distrusts something so simple and so easy and so obvious. Surely we must need to make more effort. Actually, in losing hope and more seeing that this is already it. This is the trust, the deep relaxation, the effortlessness of your true nature. Living as this person, effortlessly, even if at times, of course, it seems like we make effort as this person. But in acknowledging that I'm not doing it, I don't need to do anything to become anything, anyone. And living as this person is effortless. It happens by itself. She lives just by herself. There's no effort required to become anything or to do anything. It's totally hands-off her. I am that awareness of her. And that awareness is participating in life as this woman. Feeling, sensing, experiencing. And yet still, there's no need to do, try, or become. And if there is any of that trying or becoming, it's just part of this woman's conditioning. The little children that play out in us, they happen. They're welcome to be here. But still, who I am is that awareness of it all. Simply noticing whatever is here. Whatever is here being lived as this person.
Have you ever had the sense that none of this is real? That life is some weird trip, how lost can